What's up, guys? I'm Kareth, and this clip is from Difficult Content, an interview podcast about Final Fantasy XIV. Make sure you hit the subscribe button below and click the link at the end for the full interview. From one sage to another, I want to talk to you about healing. I know this is your favorite question, so I wouldn't feel right not asking it. But since I even get asked this, I want to know once and for all, why did you pick Sage over Scholar for PROG? And why do you think people ask you that as much as they do?
So I don't have a nice way of putting this. I think they ask me it because they don't play the game or they haven't played it very much, right? I feel like if you actively play healer, you could pretty easily see in your head why someone would pick one over the other. Or like you could see both sides, right? I could easily see why someone would take Scholar over Sage, just not me. So I guess like for anyone as I'm familiar, I always play Sage for ultimate fights and the last turn in a Savage tier. Basically at the point where there's consistent 8 people live checks, and you basically need all 8 people to live to clear the DPS check, I'm off to Scholar. I'm not playing that job anymore because at that point, even though most people think that's where the damage actually starts mattering, they start enforcing clean runs anyways, so no, the damage doesn't really matter. On a clean run, Scholar and Sage are going to be pretty close to each other in damage. It's only like when you get to like the speed area that like they really start to diverge heavily. I would even argue P8, P2, like the damage difference would have been higher than normal. Because, sorry, one second. My cat is being annoying. The damage difference would have been higher than normal because you'd have the Phoenix buff under your last 2-minute window, right? So Scholar would even be doing even more. And even then, like, we just destroyed that check. I really do think people have it backwards with when DPS actually matters. I think it matters more in the fights that you can gimp through because Scholar will save you from a 0.01% wipe on like P7 and like P6, but it's not going to save you from someone dying in P8. And so yeah, I'll always go Sage for ultimates in the final turn of Savage for that reason. And basically I play Sage over Scholar for quite a few reasons. So the biggest one is the mobility aspect. I feel like a lot of people get baited. I think a lot of people think that Scholar is more mobile than Sage because of Rune 2 and everyone's favorite ability in the game, Expedient. And I disagree heavily. I think that Scholar is way less reliable mobility-wise than Sage. I think that specifically Expedient is overvalued in the community because Expedient can make a mechanic easier, right?
Sure.
Let's think back to, I guess, Act 2. P4. It makes that mechanic easier, but it's never going to save a positioning error of that mechanic. I'm sorry. Like, it will make people get to their positions faster, and if they happen to be, like, a little bit off, they can adjust quicker. But things like Icarus can actually save a misposition. So if, let's say, in P2 of top, party synergy goes off, you have your PlayStation, you get Circle, you're tethered with someone with no mobility, like a tank. Right? And the tank misidentifies their spot and they go to your side with you. As a Scholar, you're dead. As a Sage, you can Icarus to one of the shapes on the other side and get to your spot and you're going next. The pull is saved. That is like a program loop saved off of everyone's life because you had Icarus and it was available. Scholar can't do that. Scholar, until they add a gap closer for them, Scholar will never be able to do that.
I like how we're defining program loops as units of measurement.
It is the most valuable unit of measurement. If I'm being honest, that mechanic is so fucking boring.
Well, Icarus is useful for that too, because there's certain cursed patterns where you have to use your typical mobility tools so much that a good Icarus is, it's beautiful.
Yes. I think, so this, a little bit off topic, I do think that the mobility skills like Icarus are actually one of the biggest considerations in PROG. Like, do you want to know why Sura actually picked Dancer over Bard and Machinist? Not for damage, he actually does it for on Avant, and that's not a joke. You can ask him. Mobility skills can save pulls in ways no other ability can. On top of that, like, Expedient is like a mitigation tool. It is a mitigation tool first that has the side effect of giving you sprint. It will never save a pull. If you think Expedient is better than Icarus, you are coping. The next thing is Sage has the ability to move and shield at the same time completely unimpeded. That is not something Scholar can do without Swiftcast. And I actually find it really, really good. So let's use DSR as an example. The Giggle Flares, right?
Yep.
the big proximities. So in between giggle flares on Scholar, you have to fucking either pop sprint and do the Monka S, where you try to slide cast a sucker in between hits, or you save swift cast or something like that. On Sage, you're just sitting there spamming Eucrasian Prognosis like a clown, and it doesn't matter because you can move and hit it at the same time. It's easy, it's free, doesn't cost you anything except mana, like that one guy. But
if you cast it 5 times in a row without taking damage, it costs some MP.
oh my god, okay. Dude, that guy doesn't even know. Okay, real quick aside. Okay, if you want to pad your active percent on Sage, I'm telling you guys, here's the secret. Are you ready? You hit Eucrasia and then you click it off. And then you hit it again. And you just keep doing that over and over again. Your active percent will be through the roof.
The true tech.
Yeah, and it doesn't cost mana. Anyways, so
that is a world racer tip right there for everyone looking to trick their static into their uptime.
It's free. But also, like, the mobility part, being able to move in GC Shield, like, and just having more mobility in general, I just think that is invaluable. That is the biggest reason I play Sage. Expedient sucks, don't at me. Another thing is I find, this one's a bit of a toss-up. I think this one could go either way. I find Caracoli a bit easier to use than Soil. For anyone that doesn't know, there are some differences between Soil and Caracoli, even though they're roughly equivalent. Soil, despite what its tooltip will tell you, it lasts 18 seconds, not 15. So there are certain cases where it is easier to catch multiple things with it than Caracoli. But Caracoli has a very big advantage, and that is Caracoli's only positional requirement is at the time of cast. The moment you cast it, it applies to people as a buff, and then it's just on them for 15 seconds, right? They could move across the map, which you do on ultimates all the time, they will still have it. Whereas Scholar, you have to put the bubble down, and then people have to go in the bubble and then be out of the bubble for less than 3 seconds before taking damage, or just be in the bubble for the damage to receive the mitigation. For ultimates specifically, I think this is really good because oftentimes you are stacked and you spread out all the time. So for things like party synergy, I guess the big one is the back to the giggle flares in DSR. Soil can reliably only catch 2. I guess if you want to be really neurotic, you could get all 3 if you put it in the middle and people like dip their toes in and then ran out 3 seconds before it went off to like proximity it and then run back in. You could do that to get all 3, but no one's going to do that in PROG or in PF. Caracoli, you just hit it right before the first Giga Flare, it gets all of them. People can move wherever they want. You could even do that thing where I've seen some people do where they go so fast they die the third one because they wrapped all the way back around. Lastly, you don't have to worry about your energy drains. Not that most people worry about their energy drains in PROG, but it's like not even like a consideration on Sage. You have a stack, you're using it to heal. You don't feel bad about it. Easy peasy. And it's also an easier job to play, in my opinion.
I agree.
You can use a lot more of your mental and other things. Obviously, it does have its downsides. Its mitigation is, I think, marginally less. But like, if you're on Sage and you're having a mitigation problem, most of the time it's a party issue. You either aren't using mitigation effectively, you haven't planned things out right, people are inconsistent, or just...
That was a lot of the feedback from people denigrating Sage in DSR. Yes, Scholar can crit the shield. That makes it easier. But if you have a party that presses their mitigation buttons, you don't need that.
Now you don't even really need that, right? Because now, like, they did the Holos buff, which is gigantic.
Yeah, that's huge.
I'm pretty sure Holos buff, like, puts you on parity with Scholar.
Well, they keep buffing Sage, too. Getting the Toxicon stacks from the party-wide GCD shield is huge. I mean, it's, like, comical.
Yeah. Yeah, Toxicon's really nice. I like Toxicon. I wish Scholar had something like that. But yeah, the big one's mobility. That's why I play Sage over everything else. Maybe if they give like Scholar thing I've been asking for years, I'll consider it, which is, okay, there's a game called Ragnarok Online that I played a long time ago. There's a pet class called Alchemist, right? One of the pets has this ability where you just swap places with it instantly. And I want that for Scholar so bad. I want it for Scholar so bad. I would play Scholar more if I could just flip with the fairy. Like, please. Like, it's all I want. They're never going to give us this because I feel like placing the fairy on controller would be a nightmare.
They have other forms of teleportation. They have the Reaper back and forth. So, like, they could definitely do it. It's just a matter of if.
Yeah.
That makes some mechanical solutions pretty fun, too.
Also, Sage this time around was actually better for a few phases in Prague. Sage was really, really fun in P2 because you got the double cleave phase.
Yep.
And it's if you're able to hold in P3, which I imagine most groups are able to, you can triple phlegma in P4, which is good if you have like weakness or something. Because like if you watch our Prague, you'll know we were clearing P4 check with like weakness count. Like people were complaining about the P4S and rage check. I know we are a speedrun group, but like we went into the phases with a black mage ninja death and we cleared it. We went in with a dragoon dancer death and we cleared it. Both situations with 2 DPS with weakness and we still cleared the phase.
Also a speedrun group, but I was watching Sleepocat earlier and they had 2 deaths from monitors, got them up in time, got that check cleared, and then cleared P4 pretty easily. I was like, oh, yeah, okay.
And like most people are gonna be like, well, you speedrun group, you do more damage. And that's true. But like also, if we can take 2, I think most people can take 1, right?
Sure.
Or like 2 deaths on like supports, right? Something like that. Like it's I don't know what this has to do with Sage anymore. I've kind of like ranted myself off the topic. Basically, more people should play Sage, but less people should ask me why I play Sage.
Why do you think Final Fantasy players are so concerned with the job meta when outside of high-end speeds or when specific jobs are actually awful, it genuinely does not matter?
I imagine it has to do with other games where it matters more. But in this game, like, unfortunately, to its detriment, most jobs are just the same job with a different coat of paint with very few actual differences. And I do think people just over-fixate on, like, what's quote-unquote best. People have, like, this weird, strange obsession with what class does the most damage, as if like that's the only metric that you can judge a class by. I'd argue that's one of the, with how easy jobs are to play, that might be one of the least important metrics I could think of. And like DSR, I feel like if you're playing Scholar and Sage, like in Prague, what's the difference? Maybe 1 to 200 DPS. Like there's like no way that matters. I don't know. Maybe it's because like they don't fully understand like what makes Prague easier and what doesn't, and so they just like latch on to the most obvious metric, which is damage, right?
Yeah, it's a measurable stat. You look on FF logs at any point and see which job does more damage than the other.
You can see which job does more RDPS. It's maybe a different topic, but those two things are not the same.
Fair.
You do not measure them the same way. But yeah, I do think that probably due to like the way FF Logs is so socially integrated that people do overvalue damage. I kind of put this in like the same category as people who come into my chat and the first thing they ask me is how do I rate the fights difficulty wise, as if I give a shit about how hard they are, as if like that's like the defining feature of what makes a good fight. And similarly, people think the defining feature of what makes a good class is damage.
Hope you enjoyed that. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button below and click this link right here for the full interview.